Right, we've got 3 microphones that are going to go around the audience, and the team are going to pick off 1 or 2 people, and I'm going to take your questions, and we're going to take some from online. We're going to start with one which is for you. I'm going to start with Fraser. If you're an unknown entrepreneur, is it better to have Twitter and Facebook accounts in your own name or in that of your business? Which is something that you'll have thought about when developing the Jam Boy persona. And if you tweet as a business, what are the best areas to tweet about? It's a nice kind of general subject to start off on.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any rules about whether to, I suppose it depends if you imagine yourself as the brand or the business as the brand. You know, if you want to put yourself forward as the story. So, you know, in my case, the Twitter is Fraser Doherty. And I guess just kind of having a sense of who is following you. So, you know, there are people who are interested in what you're doing, and they're going to want to know, well, in my case, I post about, you know, what I'm up to on a day-to-day basis, and I imagine that the people that are following me are kind of interested in entrepreneurship, maybe interested in jam, or just, you know, kind of, I don't, they're not necessarily people that you're trying to sell something to.
You haven't kind of found any particular strands or areas of discussion that you always go back to because it gets, you know, lots of engagement online?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, when you're doing something that's interesting, so you're maybe, I don't know, going to Downing Street, say, you know, obviously telling people about it, and you know, all the people who are interested in your business and have, I don't know, they kind of, you can give them a sense that they're there with you and that that they're a part of your journey.
Great, great. Who's got the first question? Okay,
yes, very naive question, but maybe one that's on other people's minds. I hope it is anyway. I understand how Fraser makes money. I think I understand how Ian makes money. But Justine, can you tell us what your business model is and how Mumsnet makes money?
Yeah, our business model is mostly advertising. But sort of as I referenced earlier, it's quite a hard business model because we probably turn down almost as much advertising as we take. Because our audience, and because we, I think, it's fair to say, but more our audience, you know, object to certain forms of advertising and certain advertisers. Our philosophy is to make parents' lives easier, so we won't promote brands that we think are the antithesis of that philosophy. And also we won't do all that cheesy format stuff. We won't sort of, you know, we won't put Kerry Katona all over our website saying buy this. We won't say we've been talking to our friends at Coca-Cola and we just love their new products. So there's a lot of stuff we won't do, but it is basically advertising. We obviously have a large group of a quite targeted demographic. So there are brands who are very interested to reach that market.
Great. I just want to take that one and turn it to you, Ian, because you talked about it's all about quality and it's all about the quality of the proposition you've got. When did revenue generation possibilities and potential enter your thinking when you were developing the idea?
Well, I think because we generate transactions organically through the experience. So, you know, if we tell you about the concert and you buy a ticket, you know, we're already part of a commerce flow. So we get paid by the ticket vendor for helping to generate that transaction, but the fan pays no more. So essentially, the ticket vendor is paying us for being a marketing engine for that data, personalized marketing engine. So it was sort of almost from day one we started to make money. But you know, I do subscribe to the view that you know, most web businesses are somewhat winner take all, and there are big network effects at play. So you're better off trying to get to scale and monetize more efficiently later than to, you know, try and make as much money as possible in the early days, but sort of throttle growth as a result. And you usually have to choose growth or revenue because it's just there's only so many people you have to build stuff with.
Yeah, great. Okay. The microphone is where now? Anyone got the microphone? Oh, there we are.
Thank you. That was all very entertaining. Twitter has been designated public sphere in a recent court case as opposed to private. Is this the end of privacy, and what does that mean for business?
That was a very interesting case. That involved a civil servant at the Department of Transport who was a very active tweeter and quite a sort of character on Twitter. And she was basically done over by the Daily Mail and the Independent on Sunday. It struck me as naive to expect that your tweets would have any privacy at all. And I've said, right from the start of my social media experience, that this is a public place. And even we all know about issues on Facebook in terms of privacy, and we all need to educate our kids about that too, that you cannot really expect to put anything on a social network and not have the world to see it. And of course, for most of the people here, I think privacy will be the opposite of their concerns. They'll be trying to be as unprivate as possible on social media. But I think we're still getting to grips with the borderline between the public and private on these networks. I mean, people like me are finding that there is a line that we may choose or not choose to step over in how much of our own lives we share. And I think there's another interesting point for businesses engaging on these social media, is that they can actually express their personalities in a way that you can't elsewhere. Letting your chief executive, in the case of a big company, let a little bit of it hang out is not too bad an idea, but it's something that you have to experiment with carefully.
Yeah, great. Question there, yes.
Justine, you talked about how your business came about at the beginning of the .com bubble burst. So how did you manage to pull through, and did you have to change your business model in order to make that work?
Yes, we did. We tore up our business plan. I think we're on about plan H now. But it worked to our advantage, I think, because what it meant was that we had very low costs and we did it out of our back bedroom. And that meant that we could survive the next 5 years when there was, everyone's business model was a waste of space, really. E-commerce just didn't happen at the beginning, in any meaningful way. So we were able to grow organically and at minimal cost. And that was an advantage to us. So in a funny kind of way, although it didn't feel like it, we were quite lucky, I think, that we didn't have fancy offices in Clerkenwell and a marketing department.
Great. I'm going to put a couple of questions related on that are coming online to you, Rory. One from Zena Everett, who I know. Hello, Zena. And Gillian Lipton. Same sort of thing, and you've covered this online, Rory, about have you spotted any new social media sites on the horizon? And as Zena puts it, what's the next exciting trend in social media? You've talked about specialist, more focused networks like Diaspora and things like that. Do you think that how fast might that come in, and how it might affect business in your view?
I will link to a blog post I wrote exactly about this today. I mean, I think we're at an interesting stage in the development of social networks. We've got to the stage where it appears that Facebook has won. The likes of MySpace, Bebo, Friends Reunited have all sort of fallen by the wayside, and we've now got a sort of ecosystem where we've got the giant Facebook, and we've got Twitter doing a rather different job. And it's very difficult for me to see Facebook's dominance being challenged. And I frankly talked too much about Facebook and not enough about Twitter and not enough about Facebook tonight. What we slightly media-obsessed London types forget is that actually Facebook is where most of the world is doing its social media. Around that, there are some niche networks building up. I mean, obviously things like LinkedIn. I did something today about a Scottish one called Kilter for people of Scottish origin. They're not fussy, they'll have anyone, they let me in. And there is a whole trend towards location-based social networking. How many people here on Foursquare? See, it's becoming hard. I'm on Foursquare. I don't think these things are going to work at all. I think they're mad. But anyway, the idea being that, and this quite interesting from a business point of view, the idea being that you check in to various places and get rewards for doing that. It's kind of life as a game. But I think it's a life as a game for 20-something New Yorkers with great social lives, and I'm afraid I'm not that demographic, so maybe I'm not reading it right. So I think, going forward, we'll just see Facebook copying those kind of innovations they already have in the case of Foursquare, and getting bigger and bigger, and Twitter probably surviving in its shadow, and a lot of pretty small niches around the edge. But I think as a business, it'll be very difficult not to focus almost exclusively on Facebook and to a lesser extent Twitter.
Ian?
Yeah, I think the trend that I kind of agree and kind of disagree. I think that I agree that Facebook will continue, to be the large horizontal social network that spans interests, races, countries, age, demographic, everything. Probably gets 1 billion users within no short time. But I think that you'll see a huge amount of verticalization of social networks. I mean, personally, when I saw that Mumsnet graph, I was like, wow, you're done. Like, you're there. You're gonna that is a viral graph that is, I would bet you quite a lot of money you do like 100 million page views by the end of the year based on that trend. It's pretty amazing to be in that spot. And I think
don't I have to go to Silicon Valley?
Yeah. And there's a company in Israel called MyHeritage, which is doing something like maybe like close to 1 billion page views or something ridiculous like that a month. A family-based social network, mums-based social network, concert-based network. Etsy's a handcrafts social net does like 50 million uniques a month. So I think you'll just see a huge proliferation of very vertical networks, but that all kind of tie into the big Borg that's the horizontal network of Facebook.
Okay, the microphone is over here, I think.
Wanted to ask about user expectation now with Facebook offering all these easy, options like changing a picture. I mean, at what level do somebody launch a social network when users are expecting the level of functionality of Facebook?
Anybody particular strong views on this, Justine?
Well, all I'd say is we've never tried to have any real functionality. In fact, our users get quite cross if we innovate at all. And we often have to put things back on offer. We are probably the only website that has 4 different versions that you can pick and choose, because every time we make a change, a number of our users get quite cross about that change. So I think you have to differentiate yourself. We're not known for being whizzy, and we're known for being, I think, functional and solid would be the way I'd look at it. If you're competing in that space and you're new, you probably do have to be up with the trends. Yeah. What do you think?
I did quite a long interview at Facebook about this very subject with the guy who was in charge of bringing in the new innovations. And the interesting thing was every time they brought in anything new, everybody hated it. And then they went on a bit and everybody accepted it. So people hated when they brought in the news feed, which is, what Facebook is these days. And he said something very interesting. He said Mark Zuckerberg just didn't care. He had this supreme self-confidence. He said he was like a man from the future who comes back and says, hey guys, it's all going to be okay, which I thought was a fabulous quote. So I think you can get a bit too comfortable in saying, we're comfortable, we like what we've got, we don't want to change too fast. Things will come along that everybody will suddenly latch onto, and if you're not doing that, you may get left behind.
Okay, who's got the next question? And then we'll take a couple of questions online.